Welcome back to another conversation with Three Geeks. Today I'm joined by Mike Manning. Mike, welcome to Three Geeks.
Thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. So you started out in theater before moving to TV and film. Do you kind of remember the moment that you realized like this is what I want to do for the rest of my life?
Yeah. I did high school theater, and for me, it was something that I've always just enjoyed. I didn't have any professional actors in my life, so I didn't have anybody to look up to and say, "Oh, I want to be like them." Um, but it was just something I always enjoyed doing. I remember when I was 13 years old, walking my dog around the block, and I saw a billboard for a movie, and I was talking to my dog, and I said, my dog's name was Carly. I said, Carly, one day I'm going to be on a billboard. Like I'm going to be an actor. That's going to be my job. And there's no reason that I would have said that. I didn't know anybody that was actually doing that. But for me, it's just always been something that's been in my soul, in my DNA. I've just loved performing. I've loved making people laugh, making people feel things. My grandmother, I think I get that from my grandmother. She used to encourage me. We'd watch movies and we'd act it out together, and that was back when I was maybe 5, 6 years old. So yeah, I don't know. It's always been a part of me.
You just kind of always knew.
Yeah.
I love the sweet moments with grandma. So
yeah, me too. She helped raise me, and she was like such a special person to me. And it was great. It was like my grandma was so sweet, so kind, so giving. And then my grandfather, he was a Boy Scout master. And so he really taught me, like, in any situation, you leave things better than you found them, whether it's a campsite or a relationship, or you're cleaning your bedroom or helping somebody on the side of the road. Like, he really taught me empathy and care and responsibility. So between the two of them, they absolutely helped make me the person I am today.
Well, then we love grandma and grandpa for that.
Yeah.
So, going from like reality TV to scripted television, it's such kind of a unique transition. Did you ever kind of feel like you had to prove yourself as an actor since people knew you from like the real world DC?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy origin story. So I was going to school in Colorado, going to college for business. And this is after I did theater. This is after I worked in Disney World as Buzz Lightyear and Pluto. And that was in Orlando, Florida. And one day I was like, okay, I need to give all that up and I need to get a serious big boy degree in business. And so it's my junior year of college. I'm studying for my business test in the business school, and my best friend John Russell comes up to me and he says, "Hey, Mike, you used to audition for things, right?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, "Well, there's an open casting call for a show called The Real World about 45 minutes from us next weekend. Will you come with me and will you help me get on the show?" And I had never watched Real World before. I kind of knew what it was about because back then Real World was the most popular reality show in the world. So I sort of knew, but I never watched a full episode. And so I said, you know what? Sure, I'll go with you and help you get on the show. And like that old classic Hollywood story, the casting director was like, "Hey, come talk to me. Let's get to know each other." And everybody else there, I remember, was so eager to impress this casting director and to be on the show. And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, I would be this character. This is how I would cause drama. I've watched the show since I was little. This is my dream." And so he comes to me and he asks me questions, and I was like, "I don't know, dude. I don't even want to be on your show." And of course, that's like catnip.
That's the best
people.
Answer.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, I don't even watch your show. I'm just here for my friend. Like, I don't even want to talk to you. So of course he's asking me questions, and I was going through some big life changes at that point. And so I remember him interviewing me for, he's asking me these questions, and I never thought that they were going to go anywhere. So I'm answering this complete stranger truthfully. And by the end of the conversation, he said, "Wait a second. So you play hockey, you were a wrestler, you live in Colorado, you go to church, and religion's a big part of your life, but you just broke up with your girlfriend because you're figuring out your sexuality and you're secretly dating somebody on this side." And he like lists all these things. And I was like, yeah, basically sums it up. And he looks at me and goes, "We'll be in touch." And and sure enough, they cast me on the show, and that truly changed the trajectory of my entire life. I was filmed Real World DC in Washington DC, and then I went back to Colorado, and I was finishing my last semester of college while the show was airing, and it just completely changed my life overnight. And suddenly everybody knows my business. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm in the cereal aisle, and people are coming up to me. "Hey, Mike, how's your mom doing? How's your sister? How's this?" And just I went from having a private life to having no privacy
Right.
whatsoever. And then I had a manager in Los Angeles find me on Facebook, and he reaches out and he says, "Hey, you have a good look. I've seen you on the show. Uh, have you ever had any interest in acting?" And I said, "Well, funny you should say that. I've been acting since I was little, but I kind of gave it up." And he convinced me to move to Los Angeles. So I packed up my car, I drove out to Los Angeles, and I started auditioning right away. And that's sort of how I got my start. And to answer your previous question, I sort of hid the fact that I was on The Real World for the first 3 years that I was in Los Angeles, because I wanted to be taken seriously as an actor. And back then, there was a stigma. You were either a reality TV person or you were an actor. I think
Yeah.
nowadays it's a little, there's a gray area. Like you have Zac Efron that did his unscripted show. You had Chris Hemsworth do that, his show. And so I feel like, actors are doing reality. And so there's less of a stigma. But back then, you were either one or the other. So I actually do remember my MTV reached out to my agent and asked if I wanted to do a challenge. And I asked him, I was like, "Oh yeah, that sounds like fun. I definitely want to do the challenge. Let's do it." And he looked at me and he goes, "Mike, if you do one reality show, you can get away with it. You can still be an actor. If you do 2 reality shows, you will forever be known as a reality TV person, and it will be much harder for you to break in." So he made me turn down the challenge and keep auditioning.
That's crazy. I mean, so yeah, kind of did almost have to prove it. If you hit it for a while, it's like let's show I can I got the chops.
Yeah. So I just sort of kept my head down, and I was taking acting classes every single week, and I was just auditioning. And I booked, I think my first TV guest star role was Hawaii Five-0. And then after that, I booked a Disney show called Crash and Bernstein. And, I just started building my credits. And then it was like 3 or 4 years in, I booked Disney's Cloud 9. And that was the project that really put me on the map. It was a Disney Channel movie of the week. It was a snowboarding movie. I played Nick Swift. And that was really the movie that put me on the map and had bigger casting offices, start calling me in and say, "Oh, yeah, who is this kid?" And then at that point, after I had a handful of credits under my belt, then I was much more open to talk about Real World, because I feel like I had proven myself at that point, and I could be like, "Okay, look, I have a crazy origin story with reality, but now I've booked all these acting roles. Now I feel like I've earned my seat at the table."
Yeah, most definitely. And you've worked on everything from Disney projects to dramas, horror, soaps, independent films. Which of these kind of challenges you the most as an actor?
Oh, great question. I think every project's different, and I think that's part of the beauty of what we do is every character presents new opportunities and new challenges. And I love doing horror. I love doing thrillers. I love doing rom-coms. I love right now I'm on a show called Beyond the Gates on CBS, and I play very vanilla, like I play an investigative journalist. Yeah. And he is much more wholesome than a lot of the characters I've played when I played the bad guy and everything else. So it's just, they're all different, and I enjoy different parts of each of them. For a long time, I was only being cast as bad guys, so much so that my mom and my grandmother called me one day and they said, "Mikey, the last like 5 projects you've done, you're always the bad guy. Like, are you a mean person?" And I'm like, and my grandmother saw me get arrested when it was a guest star in Major Crimes. And I take somebody hostage, and then I get arrested. And my mom called me and told me that my grandmother saw me get put in handcuffs, and she was crying hysterically on the phone. And I'm like, "Oh, Oh, Graham, I'm sorry. It's just acting. It's just pretend. So now, now my mom's very happy that I get to play a good guy.
Yeah, definitely. Poor Graham.
I know. Poor Graham. Love you, Graham. Rest in peace.
Mm. I'll have my Graham give your Graham a hug, and vice versa.
I love that. See, they're playing cards right now, joking about us.
Absolutely. So, Charlie Dale was obviously a complicated character on Days of Our Lives. So, how do you approach finding the humanity in somebody who's capable of some pretty terrible things?
Great question. Yeah, Charlie was a tough one because he started out as an innocent intern and sort of a quirky character on the show. And then as the months progressed, he became a really bad guy, and you learned the truth. You learned that he was spying on the family for his mother, who was a part of a crime family, and all these other things. And I sort of knew going into it that Charlie was going to turn into a not great guy. The writers of Days of Our Lives, they didn't tell me just how bad he got. I didn't
Yeah.
realize that I'd be kidnapping my own mother and tying her up with Christmas lights and crying about not having a childhood. And he went a little crazy, but I kind of made a deal with myself. I said, okay, at the end of the day, I'm going to go as far as they need me to go. I'm going to be as crazy as they need me to be, but I want the audience to at least understand where that comes from. I think the best villains are the villains that you can relate to them. You might not agree with them, but you understand where that pain, where that hurt, where that
Yeah.
suffering sort of comes from. And with Charlie, it was very much that his mother never loved him. And so, yes, he did all these bad things, and he like sexually assaulted somebody, and he attacks other people, and he does these really awful things. But all of it is to try to prove himself to his mother and to prove to himself that he is worthy of love and affection and all these other things. So by the end, when he spoiler alert, when he dies, you almost like some of the audience kind of felt bad for him
Yeah.
because they knew why where all this pain came from.
Yeah. Yeah. Having the understanding, and it doesn't excuse it, but it helps you understand.
Well, it also makes it for a more interesting character. If somebody's just a
Yeah.
cartoon villain that laughs and does bad things and you don't feel what they're feeling, it just makes for a two-dimensional performance. And I want to, bring as much humanity to every time that, with whether it's an indie film or a television show or whatever I'm doing, I always want to bring multiple layers to each character.
Yeah. Absolutely. And speaking of humanity, you got to join the Teen Wolf cast as one of the few humans, Deputy Farrell. What was it like joining into that cast when it was already such a well-known show?
I loved doing Teen Wolf, and for any actor who is watching this show right now and feels like they're auditioning and not getting anywhere, I auditioned for Teen Wolf 3 different times to get that role. The first time I auditioned and I got a call back, and then they checked my availability, which is basically when it's down to you. Like they're really interested in you, they're making sure you're available. So it's basically the last step before you book a job. So I auditioned, I got a call back, they checked my avail, and then MTV said that I was too young for the role, so I didn't get it. And then a season or two later, I audition again. They check my avail. MTV says I'm too old. And so finally, I go in and audition for the third time, and I was like, should I even go? Clearly, MTV hates me after I did Real World. They don't want me doing scripted. Should I just even go in? And my agent was like, yeah, go in again, just see what happens. And then I booked the deputy role. So finally, I got on the show. I loved the show. I thought it was so well done. I thought Jeff Davis, creator, did such a great job. I thought the cast was fantastic. It's fun. I love supernatural, and I love werewolves and vampires and anything
Yeah,
like that. So I was a little bummed out that I didn't get to be a werewolf or have any superpowers, but I just was happy to be on the show.
definitely. So with things like Teen Wolf and soaps, like what is it like with the fandoms when they're that large and that dedicated?
Well, after I did Teen Wolf, I went to Comic-Con and they treated me, and I was only in a couple of episodes, but they treated me like royalty when they found out that I had done Teen Wolf. Teen Wolf, it was a Comic-Con favorite for so many years. And
Yeah.
and so the fandom was just fantastic. And I still meet people and they recognize me from Teen Wolf. And, they know exactly the scene, exactly my character's name, exactly what happened. So that's always fun. When I shot Teen Wolf, I ended up having a fight scene with Linden Ashby, who played Johnny Cage in the original Mortal Kombat movies, and I loved the original Mortal Kombat movies. And so as I'm like going over the choreography and he's kicking me in the chest and I'm ducking and he's swinging, my mind, the whole time I'm thinking, oh damn, Johnny Cage is kicking my ass right now. This is so awesome. So it was definitely fun, and I'll talk to anybody. And if they revamp Teen Wolf, whoever's listening, Tyler Posey or Jeff Davis, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I mean, I wish they would. I wish they would revamp it. It was a very good one. It was very well done. I like how they didn't try to like modernize it too much from like the way the werewolves looked in like the movie versus the series. So I liked, and some of the subtle hints from the movie that were in the series too were really fun.
Yeah, and they had a lot of practical effects that told the story, but they weren't too much, to your point. It felt like classic practical special effects.
Most definitely. What is one of the biggest misconceptions that people have about working on soaps?
Okay. I think, well, first of all, we shoot an episode a day, sometimes more. So some days I'll go to set and I have 10 pages of dialogue. Some days I go to set and I have 40 pages of dialogue. And so we work so incredibly fast and so hard. I mean, if you're a storyline, you might work 5 days, all 5 days in that week, and you have a ton of material every single day. And that is very challenging to memorize, not only memorize, but also to find human moments and really try to tell a good story. And then other days, other weeks you'll work 2 or 3 days and then it's much easier. But I have such a tremendous amount of respect for soap actors. I think there is a misconception that soap actors don't try as hard, or maybe they don't have the certain moments that primetime television has, because in primetime they'll shoot a scene 7 different ways and then they'll cut it together and have dynamic camera angles and they can try new things. With soaps, you just have to tell the story. So I think that I'm glad to see with Deidre Hall and talking to Ryan Gosling, and I think John Oliver was recently on a soap opera. I think that soap operas are having a resurgence right now, and also people are respecting soaps in different ways. So I'm happy about that. And and I also just love having something regular, going to set every day, living in the world that we've created, Fairmont Crest, playing pretend with the other actors every single day. It's really nice to have something consistent. Before I did the soap I'm on now, Beyond the Gates, and then before that, before I did Days of Our Lives, I was basically bouncing around doing different TV gigs and different indie films, which it presented a challenge because you go and you film something for 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. You fall in love with these people. You become quick friends. You tell a great story, and then you pack up and you never see them again. And so I remember bouncing from movie to movie, and I was like, man, I really wish that I can find something regular. And then Days of Our Lives gave me a taste of that. And then after that, I was like, you know what? I want to be on another TV show. Yeah. And then Beyond the Gates happened.
Yeah. So is that kind of what drew you to that project?
So many things drew me to Beyond the Gates. I think having it be the first brand new daytime soap opera in 25 years was significant.
Yeah.
It was very clear to me that CBS was putting a lot of firepower behind the show, with the cast and with the sets and with the wardrobe and with everything else. Early on, it was clear. So I was like, this feels different. This doesn't feel like a regular soap. This feels special. And also, I moved to Atlanta, so I'm back and forth between Atlanta and Los Angeles. Right now, I'm in Los Angeles because we're on hiatus, but most of the time, I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia, for the show, and that also was another change that I think was good for me. I had been
Yeah,
in Los Angeles for 15 years, and I think it was good for me to have a change of scenery and to meet new people and try new things, and also the show itself is just breaking stereotypes, and it
absolutely.
is with a genre that is as old as daytime soaps. Because remember, daytime soaps, that genre is like the original television show. You had
Yep.
radio shows in the 40s that were soap operas, and then they transitioned into television in the 50s and 60s when everybody in America then had a TV in their living room, and the genre has grown and grown and grown since then. And so the fact that our show is breaking records in terms of representation and breaking stereotypes in the ways that it is in
Yeah,
2026, 2025 and 2026, for a genre as old as soap operas, it's crazy to me that it took this long for this type of
definitely.
representation to happen. But the fact that it is, and the fact that, we have characters that are all ages and shapes and sizes and appearances and sexual orientations and everything else. Like the show is really, really breaking down barriers to storytelling, and I love it. I love it so much.
Absolutely. Yeah, you've like this, but other projects as well that you've worked on that have tackled like incredibly important social issues. So, being that you've been a co-writer, a producer, and an actor, what do you feel is that responsibility when telling stories that are based on real world issues?
That's a great question. I love as an actor, I love telling stories that make people feel something, and I love telling stories that open up people to new ways of thinking and being. That's Film and television is so powerful because
Yeah,
people are either going to a theater and giving you their undivided attention for 2 hours, or they're turning you on in their living room and they're inviting you into their home to watch you on their television or their computer or wherever. But it's a very intimate relationship. And I think that, yeah, some jobs are paycheck jobs, but when you can create things that are helping people feel a little less alone in the world and feel like the things that they're going through, there's other people going through that same thing,
yeah,
or if they need to laugh, they laugh. If they need to cry, they cry. If they need to fall in love, they fall in love, and they're doing that because of these characters that we're creating. I feel like that's a beautiful thing, and I love doing that. I'm so blessed to do that and grateful that I get to be an actor as my job. And then on the unscripted side, when I produce a documentary, like you mentioned, some of the films that are unscripted. One that comes to mind is Lost in America. That was a documentary about homeless kids, and I got to produce that with Halle Berry, Oscar winner Halle Berry, Rosario Dawson, Jewel, Grammy winning artist, John Bon Jovi, who I remember watching in music videos when I was a kid and just idolizing. All these amazing people coming together to tell a story about helping homeless youth. And so that's one where we put it out into the world. I get to
yeah.
work with these amazing people, and then I get to hopefully help youth that are struggling in this country. Um, Maybe some laws are passed, and actually with this film, laws were passed in different states to help specifically homeless youth. And so when you put something out into the
Incredible.
world that has an impact and is saving lives, I mean, that is just, you can't ask for anything more than that.
No, absolutely. And that's incredible that it can do that. And it shows the power that filmmakers and actors really do have on being able to influence those kind of things.
It's great. And I
Yeah,
don't take that responsibility lightly, because I do think that there are also people out there that use their platform for evil and say bad things, or say things before they think, or post things on social media before they think, and they have a lot of influence, and so I think we as actors need to be careful what we put out into the world, because there's enough division and negativity out there. We don't need to make it worse.
Yeah, I love that. So you mentioned some of the awards that some of those incredible, talented people that you've worked with have won, but you yourself have Daytime Emmy recognition from your work on The Bay, which you helped produce and perform. So, like, what do the nominations and awards when you win those? What does that mean to you?
Like I said, I think the true gift is being able to put things out into the world that I'm proud of. And then on top of that, being recognized by my peers with a Daytime Emmy, and then most recently a Daytime Emmy nomination for Beyond the Gates, I think it's just indescribable. I remember we found out a couple weeks ago when I was on set with some of the other people. And as a show, Beyond the Gates has 15 Daytime Emmy nominations. So not only was I nominated for Best Supporting Actor, but you have other actors on the show. You have the hair and makeup department. You have, so many other people that have worked really, really hard on the show, also being recognized and nominated. And the 15 nominations, Beyond the Gates now has the record for being nominated for the most ever Daytime Emmys from any brand new show ever in the history of the Emmys. So since 1972, I think, or 74, whenever the Daytime Emmys first came to be, we have now have the most Emmy nominations of any brand new show. And so even that is beautiful. It's really nice to share. I see how hard everybody works. And so the fact that we can all share, this regardless of what happens. I mean, obviously I want to win, but even if I don't win, just to have a seat at the table is great.
Yeah. And what an incredible achievement for Beyond the Gates. So not only a huge congratulations to you for those nominations, but to the rest of the cast and the crew and the creators as well. Congratulations, guys, because that's huge.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So speaking of kind of producing, like what does getting to produce things teach you that you don't get to do on the acting side alone?
I think there's kind of a joke in Hollywood that nobody knows what a producer does, but a producer does everything. And so I got into producing with a documentary film called Kidnapped for Christ. And it was a film that a friend of mine, David, was a part of. And he was in Colorado. He's a friend of mine from college. He flies out to Los Angeles. I had just booked the Disney movie. I have an apartment. He says, "Hey, Mike, can I stay with you while I'm in LA doing this follow-up interview for this documentary?" And I said, "Sure." I didn't really think anything of it. And he's over at my place, and we have margarita or two. And he ends up telling me about this time when he was 19 and he was sent to a camp for troubled youth. And he was abused there, like physically and mentally abused. And my heart is breaking for him. And by the end of the story, I'm like, oh my gosh, you're my friend. And I never knew this happened to you, because I met him well after any of this stuff happened. And I said, I want to help this film. Like, I don't know how to produce. I've never, done anything on that side of the camera before, but I want to help. And I met the filmmaker, Kate Logan. And she basically, I grabbed coffee with her. By the end of the conversation, she goes, "Mike, I have all this footage, but I don't know what to do with it." And I said, "Well, I don't know what I'm doing, but let's find some people that do, who do know." And so I made some calls from producers that I had met in Los Angeles at that point. And one of those calls was a friend of mine named Tom DeSanto. And Tom produces X-Men and Transformers. Yeah. And he's a big Hollywood producer. And I called him and I basically explained the situation. And I said, "Tom, I don't want to waste your time, but just like point me in the right direction. What should I do?" And he's kind of quiet on the phone. And he goes, "Mike, I'll produce this with you." And I said, "Wait, what do you mean?" He said, "When I was younger, I had a friend who was sent to one of those troubled teen camps. And he came back and he ended up taking his own life." And Tom was like, "I never forgave myself. I wish I had done more. I will produce this movie with you in his honor." And so immediately I'm working with one of the biggest producers in Hollywood to tell this tiny little story. And the film just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was very much trial by fire. He would call me and he would say, "Hey, Mike, you guys have your errors and omissions insurance, right? And I said, yeah, of course, Tom, of course we do. I would hang up the phone and I would Google what's errors and omissions insurance. And then he would call me and he's like, yeah, Mike, you guys did this, right? And I was like, yeah, of course we did. And then I would like hang up and Google, and I basically taught myself how to produce based on his guidance. And then we sold to Showtime, and it was great. And then I followed that filmmaker, Kate Logan, to her next documentary and worked with her again. And I started doing documentaries. And then after a couple of years of doing documentaries, I transitioned into doing scripted film.
That's incredible. And what a powerful way to get started in that too, like moving.
Well, it's easier when you believe in what you're selling. There are a lot of people
Definitely.
that make a movie just to make a movie, and it's not the same. When you really believe in the project, when you really believe in the story you're telling, it makes every part of the process so much more fulfilling. And it takes a village. I mean, you know this, and the people listening and watching probably know this, but it takes so much work. To have any movie made is a miracle.
Yeah.
So anytime I go to a film festival or hear about a movie getting made, I'm like, great. Good job, everybody involved. Having a final movie released into the world takes a village. It takes a ton of work.
Most definitely.
And then when you're able to do that with a story that you're proud of, and you can go out and you know that movie is having a positive impact in the world, that's icing on the cake. That's amazing.
Yeah, doesn't get better than that. So if you had unlimited funding, could cast whoever you wanted to make a completely original project tomorrow, what would you make?
Oh, that is a great question. Well, I really want to do a superhero movie, and I've been obsessed with Superman since I was a kid. So if there was something, and I could partner with James Gunn or Zack Snyder or whomever, something in the DC universe, and I could play somebody with, I know that David Cornswell's doing a great job with Superman, so don't want to take that from him. But if there was a Superboy spinoff, a Jonathan Kent spinoff, I love the Superboy, the Son of Kal-El comics that are out right now. I think they're new and exciting, and also have that classic Superman feel. So that would be great, if I could manifest Superboy. That would be something I would love to do. Anything in the DC universe, I would do. I don't know. That's probably it.
Oh, we got to get you in front of all the right people now.
Please.
I totally see you playing in a superhero movie.
I would love that so much.
So what is a good piece of career advice that you would give to young or new actors?
Yeah, I would say I think talent is a big part of it, and really honing your craft. So being in a good acting class that allows you to work with people and work with new material and develop a foundation to apply, so that when you book the job, you can deliver. I think that's really important. And then also just perseverance, and just staying on schedule and staying organized and showing up on time and doing that audition and doing that self-tape. Because with self-tapes, a lot of actors, especially in the beginning, you're sending self-tape after self-tape and you're not hearing anything back. And, it can feel disheartening. But what you're doing is you're creating familiarity with these casting offices. So, I always tell actors, I also teach acting class sometimes, and I always tell my actors, don't try to book the job, try to book the room. Try to book a fan in that casting director, so that when you might not be right, there are a million reasons why you won't get a job when you audition, when you send in a self-tape, but you don't have any control over that. What you do have control over is doing a really good job, so that for the next job that you are more appropriate for, that casting director has you in mind. It says, oh yeah, that one person wasn't right for this job, but they did such a great audition. I want to call them in, or I'm going to send them straight to producers or whatever else. And that's how you develop fans in casting directors. That's how you start developing a name for yourself in the industry. And that's how you start booking jobs. I would say the first 3 years is the most challenging. It's the toughest for so many reasons. But once you sort of pass that 3-year mark and you start building relationships and booking more jobs, it makes it worth it.
Great advice. So I'm going to ask you a couple just quick fire questions.
Sure.
So First one. Favorite role you've ever played?
Favorite role. Um, I got to play a boxer serial killer in the movie The Way Out, and that was a lot of fun. For the movie, I gained 15 pounds. I took boxing classes, and there are things that I would change about the movie itself, but in terms of the role I got to play, it was a lot of fun, and I would do 10 more of those movies.
Which set has the most fun behind the scenes stories?
Oh, we have so much fun on Beyond the Gates. Everybody is always singing, we're always dancing, we're always telling jokes because we spend so much time together. So
Yeah.
and sometimes the scenarios can be redundant. It's kind of like telling similar stories, and so we got to find ways to make it new and fun and exciting. So we have a ton of fun on that set.
I imagine so. Who's the most intimidating person you've ever co-starred with?
Ooh, Anthony Hopkins. So I have a movie that I co-wrote called Eyes in the Trees. We shot it in 2024 in Thailand, and working with Anthony Hopkins, who is such an idol of mine, was both the most exhilarating and electrifying and wonderful experience, and also it was super intimidating. In my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, don't do anything, don't say anything stupid. This is a legend. I actually had the same
Yeah.
experience with, I didn't co-star with this person, but I did a movie called MFA with Francesca Eastwood, Clint Eastwood's daughter. And at the premiere, Clint Eastwood shows up, and so I'm having dinner, and it's Francesca says, "Hey, Mike, come on over." And I sit there, and it's Francesca, it's Frances Fisher, her mother, and it's Clint Eastwood, her father. And I'm just sitting there, and this is early on in my career living in Los Angeles, so I hadn't had many of these moments. And I'm
Right.
sitting there with Clint Eastwood, thinking to myself, "Don't say anything stupid. Don't say anything." I'm like white knuckling it under the table, like, "Don't say anything stupid. Just be funny and be clever." And that was a very, very cool experience.
Yeah. No. I mean, surprise dinner with Clint Eastwood would be tons of fun,
Yeah.
but very intimidating.
Yes. Yes to both.
Who is an actor you haven't got to work with, but you would like to work with?
Uh, I would love to work with Leonardo DiCaprio. This shirt actually is a replica of the shirt that he wore in Romeo and Juliet. And I've met him several times. I've gone to charity events with him. I've had conversations with him. He's very big on the environment. I like who he is as a human being. And I just think that he's one of the last classic movie stars, I think, of our time. And I would
Yeah.
love to work with him. So
Yeah, that
we're
would
we're
be
gonna
incredible.
manifest that. Yeah.
Absolutely. We're manifesting a lot right now.
He's
Superheroes, Leonardo DiCaprio. It'll all happen.
I
What
love it.
is what is a favorite movie that you've watched recently?
Oof. You know what I rewatched? Um, my grandmother recently passed away, and I sort of have like life and death on my mind a little bit, and so I recently watched What Dreams May Come with Robin Williams.
Yeah.
Watched it a couple days ago, and that movie, every time I watch it, it sticks with me. It's for anybody that hasn't seen it, it is such a beautiful, impactful representation of existence after death and sort of the impact that we leave on our loved ones. And so that movie's been on my mind a lot this week.
Most definitely. It's a very good one. Like if you haven't checked it out, please do. So horror, comedy, drama, or action?
I want to watch a comedy. I want to be in an action, and I want to after the action, then I'll be in a rom com.
I like it. I like
And I
it.
just wrapped a horror, so that's why that's sort of checked off my list for now.
Very nice. So what is next for Mike Manning?
Yeah, so I'm on hiatus right now from the show, so I'm taking a little break. I just wrapped this horror film last week. Actually, I just got back to Los Angeles a couple days ago, and that one I'm very, very excited about. I can't say anything yet, but I'll be posting about it in the next couple weeks, I think. That one is very cool. It's loosely inspired by real events, and it's a psychological horror, so it really makes you think.
My favorite.
Those are my favorite. Yeah, those are my favorite type of horrors. So that was very cool. And now that I wrap that, I'm just gonna take the next couple weeks just to relax.
Well deserved. Well deserved. Well, where can people follow you on social media so we can see what is coming up and what that horror movie is going to be and just what kind of keeps coming in the future?
Yeah, on socials, I'm just Mike_Manning on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or X or whatever it's called now. And I think on Facebook, it's like Mike Manning 01 or whatever is my public page.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Mike. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Best of luck for the Daytime Emmys, and can't wait to see what you have coming up next.
Thank you so much, Destiny, and you too. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Absolutely. Thank you, everybody. Go follow Mike online, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe here. Till next time, guys. Bye.